Welcome to Mindful Awakening. Glad that you're here. And we're going to explore something that I think is pretty fun in this class, which is channeling sexual energy into creative work. And this has been a theme in recent weeks with a number of things I've been involved with, from working with clients to a conference to a couple other places where this has popped up. And because it's coming up, I'm thinking, well, maybe it's up for more people. And so I thought I would share a bit on how I work with this and how I learned to work with this. So you may have heard before, sexual energy and creative energy are one and the same. It's the same energy. And I just want to be really clear. When I talk about energy, I'm not asking you to buy into anything. I'm not asking you to translate beliefs. I'm not asking you to believe anything. I don't necessarily believe anything. I find that sometimes there are different modalities, different practices that can be supportive and can be helpful. And part of them being helpful is kind of using my imagination and going with it. And so energy, we hear that word a lot. We hear that word a lot in a kind of like wellness industry space. We hear it a lot in spirituality. It's a word that can mean a lot of different things to different people. And for today, for this class, we're going to talk about energy being a sensory experience, something that you're feeling in your body. That doesn't necessarily mean it is limited to your body, but it's something you can experience in your body. And if you want to take it in other realms, other directions, you can. I do sometimes, but we'll just keep it really simple, really kind of down to earth for what we're doing today. With that said, I might add in some more mystical language as we move through the practice. But as always, you take what you like and you leave the rest. Find what parts of this practice are supportive for you and how you might use them to complement your belief system or your non-belief system. I find that the further along the spiritual path, it's not really how I want to put it. I'll just say I find that there's less and less belief. And in some ways that makes it easier to choose to believe something in order to have this human adventure in more and more interesting ways. So, sexual energy into creative energy, sexual energy into creative work. I want to go back to the beginning of that for me. So I started meditating seriously about 14 years ago now. Yeah, I believe that's correct. And I had had meditation in my life in various ways from the time I was very young, but that's when I became someone who was like on a spiritual path, somebody who would sit down every day and do this thing, somebody that would go to meditation retreats. It was about 14 years ago. And a lot of weird, interesting, sometimes very challenging and scary, sometimes very like beautiful and blissful experiences would occurred. And one of them was this period of a kind of hypersexuality. And I want to backtrack a little bit because I think it will be helpful for context. So I was always a very sexual person. I was interested in sex from a young age and interested in talking about it, interested in, as I got older, having it. And always an area that just kind of lit me up. And so it was also an area where I had unconsciousness. It was also an area where there was trauma. It was also an area where I caused harm. And after kind of a couple of disastrous relationships in my 20s, I hit this point where I realized I needed to change my relationship to my sexuality. I didn't want it to be something that caused harm for myself or anyone else. And one of the things I did was I practiced celibacy for about a year. It was a year, but there were a few little makeout sessions, but other than that, really only two. But other than that, practice celibacy, and not just not having sex, but not engaging sexually, not even really flirting, like really kind of allowing that part of me to be at rest. And after that period, I got into a relationship, and something that was really important to me was that I was bringing that energy to my relationship. That was a monogamous relationship, and I wanted to practice monogamy because I had a hard time doing that. And while I'm very much for conscious, ethical non-monogamy, I also needed to learn to do that. And so part of learning to do that was not to give that energy out to anyone else, not to share that energy. And I was the sort of person where if like I thought you were beautiful, or I thought you were handsome, or I thought you were cute, like I could open up the energy and just like it was coming at you. And I felt almost like I couldn't control it. So I wanted to learn to direct that energy to just one person, because I wanted to honor the relationship and the agreements of the relationship. So I, again, put that part of me to rest other than with this partner at that time. So all that backstory, because as I started to meditate a lot and these sort of strange and interesting things occurred, one of the things that happened was this period of time where there was a huge amount of sexual energy in me. And basically almost every person I saw, I wanted to get busy with. Like I was like, wanted to, lick them from their head to their toes, as I heard someone recently say. I wanted them, I wanted to engage. And I didn't, because I was like doing this thing of being monogamous and not sharing that energy. But I wanted to. And it was animal. And I found later that, as I became, as I started teaching and as I continued on my path, this is not uncommon to go through this period, but there's almost like it's like a purging of that energy, not purging like now it's gone, but like a release. It can also happen with like violent thoughts, which can be really scary. I had that happen too, where it's just like you're having all these dark, violent thoughts that you don't want to act on, but they're just sort of like moving through. And so in any case, I found later that this was a pretty normal phenomenon. But at the time I was like, what is happening to me? Like, I know, I'm a sexual person, but like, this is like wild. And so during that period, I went to a monastic meditation retreat. So that's a meditation retreat that is run by monastics, people who are, in this case, Buddhist nuns and monks. And one of the things you do is you make a vow that you won't engage in any sexual activity during those retreats. And I wasn't going to do it anyway, but there was this extra feeling of like, whoa, I have all this sexual energy and I'm at this monastic retreat. And I remember like, there was this one man who was not yet had not yet taken his vows. So he was like wearing a different color robe, and he was young, and he was like really, really attractive. And he was sitting up there with all the nuns and monks. And I was like having these I won't get into the details, but I was having these thoughts and these feelings. And he wasn't the only one. There were other people I was having this for too. And I was just working with it. I was deconstructing the experience, taking apart the words in the mind from the images in the mind, from the sensations in the body. And, I think I was working fairly skillfully with it, but it was still kind of, an intense experience. And I asked for a private interview with one of the nuns. And I remember we like sat outside on this wall, and talked, and I brought this up as one of the topics. And I said, I'm having this, this constant sexuality coming up, and, I'm in a monogamous relationship. And obviously right now I'm in a retreat, so I'm not going to act on it. And she got this smile and this glint in her eyes, and kind of, I think, might have laughed a little bit. And she said, oh yeah, like the first 5-10 years of taking my vows, or I guess it's precepts, taking my precepts, I struggled with that. She's like, it took like 5-10 years for that to go away. And I was like, oh, and it just normalized it, which was really cool, especially to have somebody who's like religious, like somebody who's, their life is to be in contemplative practice, and, to not be involved in the material world in many ways. To have her say that, like, really, it was just really supportive. But what she said next is something that stuck with me and has, influenced many aspects of my work. She said, that sexual energy is just creative energy. And she's like, you're an artist, right? You make films, you're an actor. It's like, yeah, I am. And she said, you can channel that energy into your creativity. I was like, well, that sounds good. And she basically just described like tuning into the energy, feeling it in your body, and then directing it where you want to direct it. And she's like, you don't need to engage with the thoughts. You don't need to act on the thoughts, but you can really engage with the energy and use it. And so for so many reasons, I just thought that was awesome. Like that she shared that with me, at a monastic retreat, and that it was just so in alignment with me. Like I got that. It made sense as a sexual and creative person. So that's what I did. And, it also, it made something else make sense, which is, I don't know about you, but in years past, I would have the experience of, falling in love and then having like all of this energy to create. Like I'm gonna write this poem and I'm gonna paint this picture, right? Like all this energy. And it was always sort of contingent on where I was in my kind of relationship, romantic, sexual life. And what this did is allowed me to see that energy, that sexual energy, is mine. And yeah, other people can be a catalyst for it. They can kind of like light it up, but it's mine. And I get to harness it, and I get to channel it, and I can bring it up for myself. I don't actually necessarily need anyone else, which is really empowering and really opens up a lot. Now, I do creative work, but everything's creative, right? Like you could channel your sexual energy into your Excel spreadsheet. It doesn't necessarily need to be like painting a picture or making a film. There's so many ways in which we're creative. My creatively, how do we pack the groceries at the grocery store? Like whether they're our own groceries or we're working at the grocery store, like, is there an art to that? Like, so the creative energy can be for so many things. It doesn't necessarily have to be for like, quote unquote, art. So this is for you, even if you don't relate to the idea of being an artist. So what I thought we would do today is I could just guide you through a practice, and then you can give it a try. You can give it a try with me, and then maybe bring it into your week, bring it into your life, see if it's supportive for you. And this can be, used in the way that I was using it at first where it was like, I want to honor my relationship and not share this energy, but this energy is still there. So this is something else I can do with it. So maybe you're in a situation like that. But it could also be, you're just wanting to wake up some creativity. You're wanting to infuse that creativity, bring it to life a bit. Or you might just think it's fun, just kind of a fun practice. It's also something that can be done before self-pleasure, during self-pleasure, before sex. So you could do the practice that we're going to do today, and then you could channel it right into some amazing sex with yourself or others. So there's different ways you could use it. You could also just do it just to feel good, because I think it feels good for me. It's felt good for most people I've shared it with. So it'll probably feel good for you too. So lots of different ways you might use the practice. So let's do it. Let's do the practice. I'm going to blow my nose. Just have like a little itch in my nose that whole time. Have another sip of water. Okay. So, as per usual, find yourself in a position, in a posture that feels good for you. So finding a position or a posture that feels good for you. That could be sitting. That could be lying down. That could even be standing. And beginning to settle in. And we'll start with some relaxation, because that's just a nice way to begin. Kind of open the body up, help us arrive, be right here, right now, a little more. So eyes can be opened or closed. And let's start at the top of the head. Inviting in the energy of relaxation into the top of the head. Feeling the scalp soften. Drawing that relaxation in to the forehead, top of the head. That third eye space. And down into your eyebrows and your eyes. Relaxing your eyelids. Inviting all those little muscles around the eyes to relax. And softening down into the rest of your face. Let your lips relax, your tongue, the inside of your mouth, your jaw. This energy of relaxation moving in, drawing it down into the body. Drawing this relaxation into the throat, into the muscles of the neck. Feeling this relaxation spill over the shoulders into the muscles and joints of the arms, all the way down into the hands. Arms heavy, released. Softening down into the heart space, calling that relaxation down from the throat into the heart, the entire chest, and into the upper back as well, space behind the heart, underneath the scapula, to the shoulders. Continuing to invite this relaxation down into the solar plexus, the mid back, and down into the lower abdomen, into the pelvis, the genitals. Relaxation down into the lower back, the sacrum, tailbone, into the base of the spine, the root. And then feeling this relaxation pour down your legs and muscles and the joints, into the feet. Now, as always, you could just stay here in this beautiful place of resource, just relaxing and enjoying that relaxation. Or if you'd like to come along with me, we're going to start by triggering some sexual energy in the body. And that might be as simple as bringing your attention to the pelvis, to the genitals, and just kind of breathing into this area of the body. It might even be just the awareness of that part of the body. Or perhaps you're breathing deeply down, down, down into the pelvis. And that may be enough to start to notice some warmth, maybe some tingles, some energy here in the body. You also might just try sending a bit more relaxation here. Or you might do a few squeezes and releases of the pelvic floor. Muscles you would use to stop the stream of pee. You might squeeze and release a few times. Little Kegel activity. That can help, again, just to bring some awareness, some sensitivity to this part of the body. And we're starting here because for most folks, this is the easiest place to begin when it comes to locating sexual energy, but obviously it can be through your whole body and beyond. So perhaps what I've guided so far is kind of bringing an awakening of energy that feels of the sexual or sensual quality. If not, we might trigger it a bit more by bringing up perhaps an image of yourself deeply connected to your sexuality, a time that you maybe felt really attractive, felt really good, felt really kind of turned on in life. Or you might bring to mind a particular memory that was just really enjoyable, really felt connected to sexual aliveness. Might just bring to mind an imaginary image that lights up, brings to life this energy within you. And if that is working for you, then also do bring in the breath and bring in that somatic awareness. So this just isn't just happening in the mind, right? We're dropping it into the body. We're looking for a physical response. And that's what we'll be working with. So any images, any of like memories or imaginings, that's just a temporary sort of spark to bring this energy to life in the body. So now starting to just breathe in, if you're not already, breathing into the pelvis, breathing into the genitals, breathing into the thighs and the lower belly and the hips, breathing into the seat. This whole area of the body, maybe it's feeling warm, tingly. Remembering that you can always go back to simple relaxation and resource. If anything within this practice is not feeling good for you, you can just go back to relaxation and resource. It's a wonderful practice, just as powerful, just as impactful. So remembering to be your own best teacher, your own best guide, trusting yourself, especially in such a sensitive area as we're working today. So again, we're breathing into the lower body. We're tuning into energy and aliveness here, kind of sexual energy, a flow. And I want us to start to draw this up into the solar plexus. And you might use your breath in whatever way feels intuitively right for you. Or it might be more of, again, an imagination, imagining this energy moving up into the solar plexus. And it can be helpful for some folks to give it a color or colors or texture. So you can imagine that color or that texture moving through the body, moving up into the solar plexus. Just noticing that flow. And we're extending this from the genital region. We're not removing it, we're extending it. So it's growing up into the solar plexus. Then we can keep going, drawing it up into the heart space. Filling your heart with this energy you've been cultivating. This flow of energy moving up into the heart. Maybe using the breath if that feels in alignment, if that's intuitive for you. And for some of you, there might be some movement that goes with this. There might be a swaying of the spine. There might be just any kind of gentle movement that feels good, that feels supportive to the process. And this is your process. There's not a right way for you to feel. This is yours. Continuing to draw this energy upward. We're going to move it into the throat now. So drawing it up into the throat. And again, we're not removing it from the rest of the body, we're extending it. So if at any time you start to feel disconnected from that flow, come back down to the lower bodies, the pelvis, the genitals, reconnect with that energy, and then start drawing it back up. So we're up into the throat. Continuing to draw this up, up, up into the third eye space, the space above the eyebrows, between the eyes. And as it makes its way up, it's moving through the mouth, the lips, the jaw, the eyes, filling you up all the way up into the forehead. And perhaps at this point, this vibration or warmth, however the energy is arising for you, perhaps it's spreading out into the arms and the legs and the hands and the feet as well. It's okay if it's not, but maybe it is. So that's welcome if it's happening. Filling the body with this energy. Finally, all the way up to the crown, back to where we started with the relaxation, to the top of the head. And just noticing what this feels like to have your whole body pulsing with your sexual energy. And for some, this is the place to move from. Right here would be where you would begin the creative project you're working on. This would be where you would begin self-pleasure or sex with someone else. This, for some, might be a great place to move from, or to just move into your day and bring this with you. So this is one option. This could be the completion of this part of the practice. Another thing that can be supportive is from here to imagine working on the creative project. And to imagine sending this energy from your body into that project. Seeing this energy radiating out of you into the work that you're doing. A visualization could be supportive here as well. Or you might like to allow this energy to move out of the top of your head. So it's not just in your body, but out of the top of your head and cascade around you, creating kind of a sphere around you of this energy all the way down to your feet. And you might root it back into the earth. Imagine this energy just spilling all around you, 360, and then shooting right down into the earth, plugging into the aliveness, the creative energy of the earth. And then you might move right from this into that creative project or whatever else it is that you're doing. Or you might take this time to just enjoy the pleasure that's available, the aliveness that's available. From here, you might, as I said before, visualize this energy going into something, whether that's, finishing a pitch deck for your project or hiking the Grand Canyon, whatever it is that you want to direct this energy into. You might imagine that, visualize that from here. Not only with your own sexual energy, but also with the alive, creative energy of the earth as well. So taking a moment here to enjoy whatever space you're in. Really feeling the body here. Noticing the sensations that are present. And maybe taking a few deep breaths here. Breathing in deep and maybe exhaling with a sigh from the mouth. And then if you haven't already brought movement into the body, bringing a little movement into the body. Be gently moving the head from side to side. Maybe there's a yawn or a sigh that wants to happen. Maybe you want to wiggle your fingers and your toes. And as you're ready, blinking your eyes open, coming back to the space that you're in. Thank you so much for practicing with me.